Hi everybody, Kirsty, Goddess of Neptune here. I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. Just bringing you an astrology update for the current transits, and then I'm going to do a bit of a look ahead for the full moon that's coming up later this week on the 5th or the 6th of May, depending on where you are in the world. For us in the UK, it will be on the 5th. So I'll come on to that in a bit. And I will, of course, bring up the chart to show the current transits. There's quite a bit going on regarding the moon that I was intuitively drawn to. So I will cover that. We're all up in the fields, it would seem. So I will come on to that shortly. But first of all, just a little message. I'm wearing this for a reason. Of course, those of you that can see it, it says kind. So I think it's very important to just put this message out there, and especially with Mercury being in retrograde at the moment. And Mercury is all about communication and expression. Of course, rules our thoughts as well. But in terms of how we communicate with ourselves and with others, there is a need to be kind. And that is regardless of what the planets are doing. That is just human nature and being a good human in this experience. We are souls having a human experience, but this is about how we are acting and behaving as humans. Now, there is a need to mention to be kind, because there seems to be at the moment, certainly energetically, with a lot of what's going on with Pluto. Pluto is now in retrograde, of course. So there is a lot going on at the moment with deep stuff. Some of it very challenging to face, because this is part of the healing journey, and this deep stuff is coming up and it's coming out. So it's coming out of people and it's being projected onto other people, or it's coming up and it's getting so far and then it's being stopped because it's too difficult to deal with. And then it's about how we're communicating with ourselves. But we need to be mindful of how we're communicating with ourselves and with other people, and that it's not fair to be projecting all of this deep subconscious stuff onto other people. And I wanted to just mention that, of course. So it's very important to recognize this is a time of profound healing, profound. And those of you on this journey and who are spiritually awake and who have ascended and evolved are fully aware of what's going on at the moment in terms of how we're progressing through this healing journey. It is extremely challenging at times, but it's worth it because it's empowering us within our sovereignty. But let's just be mindful. Mercury in retrograde, that gives us the chance to really go within. Retrogrades are all about that introspection period. It gives us the chance to look at things, but it can also cause confusion within communication. And with the stuff going on with Pluto, that's why I mentioned about stuff that's coming up from the depths of the soul that's difficult to deal with, can also be past life stuff coming up. And it's because lessons need to be learned in this lifetime. Let's not forget, Saturn is in Pisces, the house of the divine, spiritual lessons coming up. So this stuff is not easy, and it's coming up, and it has a tendency in some to come out and at other people. But let's remember to be kind, please. Okay, I'll leave that there. But one other thing I will mention before I move on, and you're probably thinking, come on, Kirsty, get on with the astrology. And I will get to that, of course. But self-reflection is certainly something that came up as I was getting the decks ready, because I'm going to do a tarot reading after. Self-reflection popped out. So we need to be very mindful about how we're projecting stuff on other people. That's very important to bear in mind. Other people are mirroring back to us our inner condition. So we often have experiences of this. You know, if we're having a really bad day, we could be experiencing further challenging moments because the energy is such that it's just going to mirror back to us what we're feeling inside for our attention, for us to heal it, for us to process it. And this is the thing, you know, this is why it takes us that moment to go within, and we really need to understand, you know, what we're going through on a healing journey, but also to recognize that other people are also going through certain things as well, and that it's not helpful to have really vulgar comments being projected out there because of subconscious stuff that's coming up to the surface. You know, this is our responsibility to take our responsibility for these things that are coming up as part of our healing journey, because at the end of the day, we're all sovereign beings and we're worthy of love, joy, and abundance. But we need to face what's coming up and not project it out through jealousy, anger, hatred, whatever it is that's fueling it is not helpful. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, okay, just to address that. And let's be kind. Let's be kind to ourselves and others, okay? Right, let's pull the chart up without further ado. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the chart and I'm going to go straight to the current transits, although admittedly, I looked at this chart, you know, a good 10 minutes or so ago. And by the time this is uploaded onto YouTube, it might be an hour ago. But I basically looked at the chart at 1733. Interestingly, it was 1733. Powerful manifestation numbers there, angel numbers. Check them out if it resonates for you. But I was drawn to that particularly. So if you can see here, just zooming in, we have got, for those of you that have not seen my astrology reports before, that the UK's natal chart is the inner wheel and the transits are the outer wheel. So think of it as a freeze frame of the cosmos at the time. And that shows the degrees of the planets, okay, and the minutes, and it will show you what sign and what house they're in. Everybody's natal chart is going to be different and unique to them. So take only what resonates. This is for the UK's natal chart. So it's really for the collective of the UK. That's what I'm basing my interpretations on and my intuition on, okay? It's important for me to mention that. And also the house system, that's going to look different in people's charts as well. You might have a house that has 2 signs in it. You might have a sign that is actually in 2 houses. So it just really depends. And that's why it's unique to us. It is our soul's blueprint. And I firmly believe that, and I stand by that. Fascinating, okay? Now, what I'm drawn to here, and of course we know, Pluto is in retrograde. I could end the reading there. Pluto is in retrograde. Transformation, deep, deep, deep transformation. We've been going through this for quite a while, this journey of healing, this journey of transformation. And of course, Pluto is now in the sign of Aquarius. And there is that liberation to transformation, you know, in terms of feeling perhaps free to transform into who we really are at the core, deep down at the core, at the soul level. This is Pluto, this is Scorpionic energy. And Pluto is known as the god of the underworld. And this is why I do say it's the depth. So this is deep at the core of the soul. What is your soul's truth? Who are you at the soul level? And this is all about, you know, Pluto being in retrograde now until 11th of October, I think it is. So 5.5 months, which interestingly, 5.5, although it's probably not exactly that, but it did make me smile when I looked at that, because I thought 5.5, that's all about change. And this is deeply about change, transformation. So 5.5 months, roughly, of retrograde period. So during this time, if we're not already aware of what we've got to transform from the depths of our soul, we are going to be aware of it, because Pluto doesn't mess around, neither does Saturn. And Saturn is here to deliver lessons. And certainly being in the house of the divine, spiritual lessons, karma, karmic situations coming up to be healed. This is why I mentioned earlier that there is deep subconscious stuff coming up to the surface that has to be processed, has to be acknowledged and healed and transmuted once and for all, folks, because we are on this journey of evolution. And I feel passionately and strongly about that. And I know that I'm having to keep sort of, you know, my throat chakra is really wanting, really wanting to express. So there is that kind of desire for us to communicate and to fully step into who we are meant to be, who we have always been and who we are meant to be. Removing layers of conditioning and programming. This is deep, heavy stuff. This is ancestral trauma that some of us are actually healing. So it's big. It's big. And that's why there is that tendency for some people who are not aware of how to heal or perhaps accept things like this, that they could go off on a tangent to other people and direct hatred or anger to other people. It doesn't help anybody. So this is all about us trying to find a way, trying to find a solution to heal ourselves. We are responsible for us. Okay. So looking at this lovely colourful chart, as you can see, with the red and yellow, and I don't know why I chose those colours, but anyway, we've got some things that I wanted to draw your attention to. So this is the, you know, the current transits, or as at 17:33 today in the UK, GMT, British Standard Time. Apply your own time zones as appropriate. And we've got a lot going on here regarding feelings and emotions, regarding relationships, regarding love, and regarding connections with other people. So there is a powerful message here, and it is this. What you can see at the bottom there with the yellow line at the bottom, that shows you where the moon currently is, or certainly where it was at 17:33 today, 2nd of May. The moon currently in Libra, and it's in the 4th house of the UK's chart. So it's specific to this chart, what I'm saying, okay, based on collective energy with the UK. This is about fairness and balance and equal give and take, reciprocity within feelings and emotions. What feels fair to you? What doesn't feel fair to you? What feels balanced to you and what isn't balanced? What's reciprocal? What isn't reciprocal? How does that make you feel if something isn't reciprocal? Not so good, I would imagine, because we want fairness. We want equal give and take, certainly in our connections with others. So the positive thing that I was drawn to was the fact that there is a trine, which is a positive aspect in astrology, to Juno. And Juno is there at the top left, again, the yellow line showing Juno, in the 11th house of connections with other people. And Juno is in the sign of Gemini, only just because she's at 0 degrees. This is divine feminine energy. And we've got Venus in the 11th house as well. So there is this emphasis on the divine feminine energy of nurturing within this particular house on this chart. But with this positive aspect with the moon to Juno, this is, you know, love when it comes to connections with others, because Juno can represent love and marriage. So how do we feel in our connections with other people that are love-based? It could be marriages for some, but certainly loving relationships. And we can have loving relationships with people and not be in a relationship with them, so to speak, not in a romantic relationship with them. We can have love for, you know, family members. So we're in a relationship with a family member. We love them, of course. But because there is also the aspect going on with the moon and Pluto that I've just mentioned, which is also a trine, so also a positive aspect. The 7th house, where Pluto currently is on this chart, relates to love and relationships. So we've got a lot going on here regarding transformation that's needed in connections with other people where there is love of some kind, in order to bring about balance, fairness, justice, equal give and take, reciprocity, because the moon is in Libra, and Libra is the scales of justice. Libra calls for fairness, and this is to do with our emotions. So how do we feel about the connections that we're in? How do we feel about the relationships with others that we have, where there's love? And are they equal? Are they fair? Because if they're not, this is why Pluto is here, to call for that transformation. And we're now in the retrograde, so this gives us a chance to focus in. Okay, that's being shown to me now. This is how I feel, and this needs to transform. So it's a positive placement because a trine is a positive aspect. So the energy of Pluto, although quite oppressive, you know, when it comes to this deep transformation, and it can be challenging, this is a positive aspect to the moon. Okay. And we've also got the moon in a positive aspect to Juno. So this is supporting us. This energy is supporting us. It could feel challenging, but it's supporting us. It's happening for us, not to us, not against us. Okay, so it's important to bear that in mind as well. The moon is also in sextile to Lilith. And Lilith is there, and I haven't marked Lilith on here, but Lilith is in the first house. And Lilith can represent that dark feminine aspect, the shadow side. So in the first house is the self. So again, with that sextile going on, that's another positive aspect. So where things have been coming up from the shadows, from our shadow work, again, from the depth, something that we might not have wanted to look at, certainly that we might not have wanted to be seen, because Lilith is in Leo, and Leo is all about being seen as that full expression of self from the soul level. Maybe for a time we haven't wanted to face things like that, but now within, you know, the moon in Libra calling for that balance, how do we feel? So if things have been coming up and there's been heavy emotions because you know a situation or a connection is not fair, is not balanced, the shadow side of Lilith has been helping us see that, because it's been bringing up wounds to the surface that need to be healed. We've been able to process them, accept them, acknowledge them, release them, and then heal that wound. And therefore we're stronger, we've evolved, and then perhaps we take a different view of what needs to change in our relationships because we've healed a shadow wound. And perhaps that shadow wound has kept us in a connection that has not been serving us for whatever reason. And now we can see it clearly. And that's why there's a positive aspect to that shadow work, because again, it might not feel like it at the time. This is heavy energy with Lilith and Pluto, but it's helping us. It's for us. It's not against us. So it's important to bear that in mind. Now, I do have to draw attention to what Mars and Venus are doing. So, of course, the masculine and feminine elements, and we've got those energies within us, and we strive for that balance of the two. So the fact that the moon is in Libra calling for balance is quite appropriate here. Now, we see on this chart that Mars is actually, so on the left-hand side, Mars is in the 12th house. And I've said before in other astrology readings that, you know, the masculine side has been dealing with deep subconscious, perhaps hidden wounds, and has had to go through a bit of an ego death. And when I say that, I mean unhealthy ego. So the pride, you know, all of that kind of needing to go, needing to dissipate, and us needing to come from a more, what's the word, nurturing place, I suppose, bringing in that feminine energy that Venus can support with. But on this chart, of course, Venus is in the 11th house, so not quite in the 12th house here, not quite joined Mars in the same house on this particular chart. But Venus is there, not too far behind, and there has been a lot of feminine energy supporting change, because Juno is there with Uranus, of course, in the 11th house, and we have Vesta in the 10th house supporting our inner authority, what sparks that fire within, and being able to support the other energy going on in Taurus currently. But I digress. So we've got some squares going on here, and we've got, so Mars is actually squaring Saturn. So I've just indicated that on the right hand side. So we've got Mars here on the left in the 12th house, and there is a square to Saturn here in the 8th house. Saturn is in Pisces. So 8th house can represent power, and it can also relate to sort of passion when it comes to connections. So bear that in mind with what I've been saying about change and transformation when it comes to connections. Saturn's all about getting things done, quite regimented, structured, but there is an element of karma to this as well. So the masculine might have had to be facing karmic situations that have been coming up that have perhaps challenged personal power, or perhaps have challenged connections. So the transformation is needed for sure, because we need to balance out. We need to balance out the masculine and feminine, but the masculine could have just been dealing with those hidden, kind of deep-rooted, subconscious wounds regarding karmic situations that have maybe been challenging their power. Okay, and I say their power. This isn't just masculines as in males. This is about all of us. Within us, we have masculine, we have feminine. So the masculine within all of us wants to strive forward, wants to get things done, wants to take action. And that's how we do get things done, because it's the masculine drive. But we need the feminine side to ground us, to nurture us, to provide in that way, and to show that love. Okay, and that's why the feminine our feminine can heal our masculine with what's going on. So if there is that element of feeling challenged when it comes to our power, or when it comes to karmic situations that are coming up, perhaps karmic connections, then that's where, you know, we can take that support from Venus being in the 11th house, of course, with Juno there, and we know Juno's got that positive trine to the moon, so in terms of our feelings. But there is, with Venus, there is a square to Ceres, so expansion of all of this feminine energy may feel challenging, but because perhaps we are so used to being driven by the masculine side, and now the masculine is having to heal. And, you know, I say take a back seat, but that's because of the healing process. The feminine is driving this forward, okay, in terms of the healing journey. That's how it feels to me, certainly. And, you know, you've got Mars with that square to Saturn, and that's masculine energy, heavy masculine energy, almost facing off there. So the feminine energy is certainly needed. But there is also this square to Neptune that Venus has. So again, when you think of Venus in square to Ceres, Venus in square to Neptune, there is that kind of, all right, challenge, that sort of perhaps difficult energy to overcome when it comes to expansion of the divine feminine side within our communication, within the 3rd house, to do with connections with others, Venus in the 11th house, but also the spiritual side when it comes to our beliefs, our values, and also what we might need to learn, because Neptune is, of course, in the 9th house. And it could be that we are learning more about our feminine side, and we're having to discover more about our feminine, because our feminine energy is leading the way for the masculine at the moment, is trying to help the masculine energy overcome this facing off of the kind of karmic situations. So, you know, Neptune, because let's face it, there's light and shadow to everything, to all of the planets, to everything, and we need to recognize that it's not all love and light. There's light and dark to everything. Okay, so the fact that there is that square going on between Venus and Neptune, you know, we don't want to be under any illusion, because Neptune can bring that illusion, confusion, and deception. We don't want to be under any self-deception when it comes to our beliefs, but instead we need to focus on the light side of Neptune and say, okay, Neptune is in the home sign of Pisces. That is a sign of the divine. Saturn is also in Pisces, although on this chart they're in different houses, because that's just how it is. But they're both in Pisces. So the Neptunian energy can bring that sort of the mystical side, the spiritual side to Pisces, to help the masculine through what the masculine needs to do, and to help the feminine through. So we need to focus on the light and not the shadow only. We need to focus on both, not just the shadow. I hope that makes sense how I've explained it. So, you know, there is quite a bit going on when it comes to our feelings because of the moon and what's going on. And I wanted to just draw your attention to that. So, you know, we've still got Uranus, of course, calling for change in connections, as well as what's going on with Pluto. So there is a big emphasis on change. Excuse me, whilst I have some water. Keep hydrated. So, and we know Mercury is in retrograde, as I mentioned before, and Mercury is in Taurus. So when it comes to our worth and our values, so this is why, again, there is that need to be kind, because we need to recognize who we are, what we're worthy of, and what we're truly worthy of, not what people have told us we're worthy of, because maybe people have told us we're not worthy of anything. And we've believed that for a number of years. And this has been a massive rediscovery of who we are, which is, again, why possibly we're having to learn with the 9th house Neptune more about the feminine side of us, with Venus in the 11th house, and of course with what's going on with Mars. We need to balance out, we need it to be fair, equal give and take. Okay, so I'm not going to labour that point. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, and before I go on to the other chart, I am just going to actually pull a card from the Queen of the Moon. Okay, I just feel drawn to doing that. It's a bit of an interval between the two charts. Okay, let's see, what does the collective need to know based on the current transit, and particularly with the new moon, not the new moon, sorry, the moon now, that's going on. Okay, and that I should have said as well, sorry, the moon is in the 4th house, so that's all about foundations. So we're feeling it within our foundations, and maybe our foundations, or what we thought were our foundations, are crumbling a bit because we've recognized that change is needed within these connections, transformation is needed within these connections, and that can feel quite unsettling. But again, it's all for us, it's happening for us. And I just saw the change card. You can't make this up. Spirit confirms. Thank you so much, Spirit. Self-love, self-reflection. Yeah, we've got to recognize what we're worthy of. Absolutely, 100%. Okay, let's see what we have, and then we'll move on to the full moon. Okay, so this is what we need to know. Moon in Libra, changes in connections. What do we need to know, please, Spirit? Okay, one more. Quite appropriate. Okay, what else do we need to know? I feel there's another one. Did you see that? Okay, so what I will say is Spirit shows us things, okay, that we need to be aware of. And the first card was this, fear. So yes, there could be fear around this transformation that's needed. And that, again, I'm drawing it back to the kind, because when there's that stuff going on, sometimes we fail to see the light, we project out onto other people. Balance and resilience. So that's very much, to me, what Libra is all about. So that's Spirit's confirmation. Thank you so much. That balance is needed. And certainly how we feel about situations, balance is needed. And we may feel like we've been carrying a load for so long. And this is why, you know, the shadow work, all of that has shown us where balance is needed. So where things are out of balance and how that makes us feel is how we can often respond to the situation. Because if it doesn't make us feel a certain way, how do we know? Ask yourself that. So we could just be going on and on and on in situations. La, 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 la. Everything's okay, everything's okay. And then deep down, because we don't want to face something, it's almost like, oh no, you know, it's too much of a burden. This is something that's got to change. So all of a sudden you get woken up to something, and then it's kind of like, right, I've got to restore balance now. So thank you for showing that, you know, thank you for bringing that to my attention. And that's how we can work through things. So the only way we know is based on how we feel about things. So the moon being in Libra is calling for fairness, balance, reciprocity. Okay, this one landed in between two of my wires that I've got here. Peace, because ultimately we want peace in our lives. We don't want to be going around pussyfooting around, treading on eggshells. We want to feel peace and harmony. There is divinity to this as well. But also what I'm drawn to is this circle. So cycles need to close out in order for new peaceful cycles to begin. Now, there was two that fell on the floor, so bear with me, because they flew out at some speed. And they're both in reverse. So what we have, and I'll put them in the upright to show you, we have blossoming. That's making your own music. That's playing, and it's a violin, but I'm going to say playing to the beat of your own drum. Playing to the own string of your violin, if I've said that correctly. Playing to your own string of your violin, like dancing to the beat of your own drum. You know what I'm saying? So this is about making your music from your soul. Expression of that, the truth of your soul, but there's light coming out. None of this dark stuff that's unkind. This is light stuff. Faith. Having the faith that what you're doing and the changes that you're making is all for your highest good. And this is Empress energy as well, because we've got, there's fertility to this. Things can grow. Things can grow, seeds can be planted, things can grow when we're at a place of faith. and we can surrender to the divine as long as we're setting our intentions and we're going through our healing journey and we're recognizing when lessons are coming up and we're learning from them and we're taking the wisdom from those lessons to apply moving forward, trusting in the divine. And then we can receive the abundance, we can receive the joy, and we can receive the peace because we're feeling the peace. And that all comes from that place of balance. So there we are. Yes, I knew there were some messages in that deck for you. And on the bottom, hidden energy abundance. So look at what's waiting for you once you go through all that transformation. It might feel like it's a never-ending journey. And it could be like, where is it, universe? I'm doing all of this work. Where is it? This is about being patient and recognizing in divine timing, because that's only going to put more pressure and energy out into the universe. And the universe will respond to that by saying, well, you're not ready, are you? Because you keep asking for it. Whereas when you have faith and know that it will come to you, just like in that card, I can show it again. This is birthing something new, but there is a cool, calm, comfortable energy here. Okay, awesome. Right, let's move on to the next one. Hopefully you're still with me at this point. Okay, so this is about the full moon. So we have a full moon, and it's a look ahead. I'll do another video later in the week, so it's separate. But we have a full moon coming up on either the 5th or the 6th of May, depending on where you are in the world. For us in the UK, it's on the 5th of May, okay? So again, 5-5, so change. And also when you reflect on the year, and hopefully I get my maths correct, so it's 2023, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 5, 5, 7. So 5, 5, change, 7, divinely guided change. Okay, and we've not only got a full moon, as my phone just beeped. We've not only got a full moon, but we've got a lunar eclipse because we're in eclipse season. So the new moon we had, okay, the new moon that we had on the 19th or 20th of April, wherever you are in the world, we had a solar eclipse with that. And now we've got a lunar eclipse with the full moon. So full moons, great energy for releasing. And also they illuminate things, because what does the moon do in the sky when it's full? It illuminates the dark. So we can see it. That's what makes it a full moon. And certainly a couple of days before, it could look full. You know, we start to see it in the sky and it's getting fuller. But the full moon energy at its fullest is on the 5th of May, and it's 1834 for the UK. So full moon, and I feel like I keep wanting to take a breath. So this is going to be a big one. Okay. Full moon in Scorpio, because the moon is opposite the sun. The sun's in Taurus. Okay. We're in Taurus season. Full moon in Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by who? Pluto. Pluto's in retrograde, as I just mentioned. Deep transformation. And as I put on my Instagram post, this is not surface level shit. This is deep stuff. So Pluto's in retrograde. We've got a full moon in Scorpio that could be illuminating stuff from the depths up, with the lunar eclipse illuminating stuff from the depths up. Double illumination potential here. Big. And it's opposite, so it's deep because it's Scorpio, and it's opposite the sign of Taurus, which is about worth and values. So it could be illuminating big, heavy stuff relating to our worth and our values. Of course, the sun being in Taurus, that's the soul essence, because our sun sign represents our soul's essence, our soul's truth. So when it comes to Taurus, knowing your worth, knowing your values. This full moon could be challenging that because it's opposite and it's illuminating stuff. Perhaps it's going to show you where you might not feel worthy of certain aspects. And that can be difficult, certainly within the emotions. Full moon, it's the moon, emotions. So bear that in mind. And of course, check your own chart to see where these things are happening, to see what house they're happening in. Let's bring the chart up. Okay. I keep wanting to take a breath, and it's like a deep breath. So we've got to take our time with this one. We've got to process what's going to be coming up. You know, what else can I say to that? Okay, let's see. I want to get the right chart for you. Here we go. Right. So again, I've gone straight to the UK's chart here. UK's chart on the inner wheel. Full moon in Scorpio, lunar eclipse on the outer wheel. 1834, 5th of May, 2023, 557. Divinely guided, powerful change. And you'll see all my lines, and this time I've chosen purple and yellow. But interestingly, purple represents the third eye chakra. So what's your intuition telling you about all of this? Yellow represents the solar plexus, personal power. So very interesting. And before I had the red and yellow, didn't I? And red is root. So maybe we need to feel grounded in our emotions before this full moon comes, because of course the previous one was about the current transits, and this is coming up later in the week. So we know, as I've mentioned before, Mercury's in retrograde, Pluto's in retrograde, okay? And the sun is in Taurus, and the sun is in the 11th house. So you'll see that at the top there, okay? So as I said, this is a freeze frame of that moment, at that exact moment that the moon is at its fullest with the lunar eclipse, okay? So the sun has moved into the 11th house, but is still in Taurus. So the sun is in the house of connections with other people. And the moon is in the 5th house of love. Okay, 14 degrees. Interestingly, conjunct the UK's Vesta, the sacred flame within. What lights us up? That spark within. It's divine feminine energy. It's goddess Bridget energy. So the moon could be heightening the divine feminine feelings when it comes to, well, not only the divine feminine within, but what lights us up. And opposite the house of connections with others, what lights us up about our connections with others. So yeah, not too dissimilar about what I was saying, you know, from today, because there's a lot going on in the 11th house, 7th house, and that's still the same for the UK here. But, you know, recognize that there could be a heightening of energy in terms of what lights us up within, what sparks us, what's that sacred flame within when it comes to love and when it comes to our connections with others. Because there could be some illumination of that regarding our worth and values when it comes to connections with others. Okay, with this full moon and lunar eclipse in Scorpio, deep stuff. Pluto's still there in Aquarius because Pluto's in retrograde. So we've always got that going on at the moment, that we are being forced to go within to reflect on what we need to transform. So what I will say, and this is why there's a big purple line across this, which is probably not very helpful, but it reminded me, okay, of what I wanted to say regarding this. So we have on the left-hand side, Pallas, Lilith, and Mars. And with that, there is a trine, okay, to Neptune. So if I zoom in, sorry. So you see that there on the left-hand side, and there is a trine across to Neptune in Pisces. So again, trine's positive placement. So we know that Pallas is now in the 1st house. Lilith is actually back in the 12th house, and Mars is there in the 12th house as well. So a trine is positive. So let's look at the light side of Neptune, that mystical, ethereal, spiritual side, and in its home sign of Pisces, of course, as well, in the house of beliefs and also anything we need to learn or discover. So we know we've had that challenge going on with today's transits in terms of what we might need to discover about the feminine within us and being empowered to move forward with that to help the masculine through. So now this positive placement, we've got divine feminine energy again, but in the 1st house with Pallas there. So that's more like goddess Aphrodite energy, okay? And in Leo, So again, the first house of the self wanting to be seen as a feminine, and that energy with Neptune helping us discover the spiritual side of us in that way. That high priestess within, if you like, if you want to attribute that to feminine energy within spiritual side. And Lilith as well, which is the dark feminine side, the shadow side. But there is that harmony almost in recognizing the light and dark, because we want to bring things into balance. And Lilith is at this point in the sign of Cancer, which is the moon's sign. So there is also that nurturing energy to the shadow side. And that's because Lilith has obviously been bringing up a lot for us to focus on. And being next to Mars there as well, we know that there's been masculine wounds coming up to the surface to be healed. But Neptune is there in a positive aspect here to further help in terms of that spiritual journey of evolution and ascension. Because this could be hidden, deep-rooted stuff coming up that we've needed to heal. But we recognize that when we can truly embody ourself with that first house energy, and we go deeper within our spiritual journey of evolution, that's going to help us through. That's going to help us discover more about who we are at the core, you know, more about who we are at soul level. Now, we do have Venus. So Venus, as we know, is in the, well, at this point, sorry, in the 12th house, because she was in the 11th house. But by this time of the full moon, she's actually moved into the 12th house. So Venus has joined Mars in the same house, although they're in different signs. So on top of, I will say, 27 degrees on top of the UK's natal Mars. So Venus has joined Mars up in the sky in the same house for the UK, but different signs. But Venus is actually conjunct, is on top of the UK's natal chart Mars. So definitely there, the double Mars energy anyway, but Venus almost coming in and really, you know, putting that comforting sort of arm around Mars at this point as well. We've got Ceres. Okay, we've got Ceres in the 3rd house, transiting through the 3rd house, conjunct the UK's natal Lilith. So yes, okay, expansion of some kind of shadow aspects when it comes to communication, but we know Mercury is also in retrograde at the moment. So we don't want to be under any kind of confusion when it comes to our thoughts or our expression. We want to be able to go within and truly sort of hone that in when it comes to our worth and values. And we don't want to be too critical on ourselves as well, because Ceres is in Virgo. The UK's natal Lilith is Virgo, and there can be a tendency to be self-critical, especially when wounds come up. And they could be identified. So there is a need to not do that, to again rely on that feminine energy to soften and nurture us through these shadow aspects that are coming up for our attention. Okay, and we have, so the other thing I wanted to draw attention to, and I made note of it because I didn't want to forget, and it's that Vesta and Mercury, both in Taurus, okay, and both in the 10th house, are in sextile to Saturn in the 8th house. So where we've got the 10th house of inner authority, and we've got Vesta and Mercury. So again, that sacred flame energy of what lights us up, you know, and how do we want to kind of express that when it comes to our worth and values. There is that positive aspect to Saturn, which is, of course, getting things done, being quite structured and regimented about things. And it could be that because Mercury is in retrograde at this moment in time, but this period is allowing for introspection, reflection, you know, revisiting things. And Pluto being in retrograde, you know, revisiting things when it comes to the deep transformation, that perhaps there is that element of going within and understanding what does light me up when it comes to my worth and values, what also lights me up when it comes to what I love to do, 5th house energy, you know, because the moon has enabled me to feel what is important to me, especially when it comes to connections with other people. But how do I want to move that forward? How do I want to express that? How do I want to communicate that? And then the positive aspect to Saturn, giving that structure giving that regimented approach, and of course that is masculine energy as well, but giving the regimented approach to almost take the action once we are out of Mercury retrograde. And that could just be something that was coming through to me for a handful of people, but it came through to me regardless. So I will say it, because if it hits for you, it hits for you. It's important to recognize that retrogrades are great for that reflection, renewal, to review, the rewords, and then to take action after the retrograde. It's not to say you can't take action during a retrograde, but when it comes to a Mercury retrograde, it's probably advisable to do it after. And we are out of Mercury retrograde on the 15th of May. So 15-5, got 2 5s again there, haven't we? With change, I'm just drawn to that. Angel number 55 could be very significant for some of you out there as well. Let's not forget, in the 10th house, we've also got Jupiter that's still there until Jupiter moves to Taurus on the 16th of May. So there's still that expansive energy in terms of our sovereignty. And this is to do with our inner authority. So this is teaching us, with everything that's been going on, the shadow stuff coming up, everything that's been coming up with the moon in terms of fairness and where we need to change and transform connections with others. This expansive energy has allowed us to become more of our sovereign self, to be empowered to be who we are, Aries energy, and to know our worth and values with everything that's going on in Taurus. Uranus calling for change, the sun there to really give that soul energy, that soul drive forward. So it's important to recognize that. But there could be karmic situations that have been coming up that have needed our attention. So it's important to bear that in mind as well, because again, look at the light and the shadow side of everything. And it's not to say that karmic situations are wrong. They're there to teach us lessons. And it could be karmic situations from past lives. I know that goes deep, but hey, Pluto is deep, and we are in Pluto retrograde. And this is a full moon in Scorpio with a lunar eclipse. So I think we need to go deep when it comes to this kind of stuff. There could be karmic stuff to deal with. And certainly when Saturn moved into Pisces, it was almost that kind of knock on the door to say, hi, I'm here in Pisces now. What have you learned the past 3 years? Have you learned your lessons? Got a bit tongue-tied there, didn't I? But yeah, have you learnt your lessons? Because if not, I'm going to now show you what you need to learn, because I'm in the house of the divine. So anything that's not in alignment with your soul's truth, I am going to show to you. And this is what's going on, you see, with these kind of gas giants that are just showing us all of this at the moment and allowing for the energy to be expanded. But remember, it's all for us, you know, it's not to us or against us. Okay. And that's important to bear in mind. Let's stop sharing now. So, you know, I know this is a bit of a longer astrology overview, but I wanted to include the current transits because I was particularly drawn to the moon being in Libra and that need for fairness and how we feel about things that are not fair. I mean, how do you feel if somebody's not treating you fairly? It's not okay, and it's not of the light, but there could be reasons for it. And it's all to do with this healing journey and this transformation, because we are changing, we are evolving, and you know, we're moving forward, and we're having to kind of sever connections that are not serving us anymore, because we do fall out of alignment. And it's not to say there's anything bad with that, because those connections may have served us really well for a period of time, and then it comes to a point where, oh, okay, I've done my healing journey, that other person or group of people have done their healing journey, and now we don't align because we've discovered who we are and we're just different people. So that's okay. It's nothing, it doesn't have to be a massive argument or a fight about anything. This is about realizing that we are meant to be around those we're meant to be around, and people are brought into our life for a reason. This is not just a game. This is about an experience. So people are brought into our life for a reason. We go through experiences for a reason. We go through challenges for a reason. There is a purpose to everything, and everything is connected. Energy is fluid. We are, trust me, when you recognize the power of energy, it will open your eyes to many things, many things. And, you know, again, those of you on this healing journey and have been on it for some time, you will know, and you will have felt it. And especially from the past 3 years, again, you know, when Saturn was in Aquarius before he moved into Pisces, we did have to look at things because of the time we were in at that moment, you know, without mentioning what we went through. But that forced us to face things that we maybe didn't want to face, or perhaps we would have just brushed it away. But we were forced into periods of isolation where we had to look at things, and change came out of that. A lot of change came out of that. And recognition for what's important and what isn't important to us in our lives. And that's based on how we felt. So this is why I keep going back to the moon and how we feel. So this full moon is going to show us, with this lunar eclipse, that's double illumination. That's double illumination. So if you're open to it, you're going to be shown it. And, you know, tower moments happen, and we have to just deal with them because it's necessary change. It's better if we work with the energy rather than just allowing things to happen. Okay, let's go with the Astro deck. Let's see what we have. So the full moon look ahead. Full moon in Scorpio. Full moon look ahead. Okay, that one wanted to, oh, look at that. 7th house relationships in reverse. So what was I saying before about change needed in relationships? This is coming out of those relationships that are not serving us anymore, in order for us to then have the free space, the energy, the free energy to be in relationships that do actually serve us. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Spirit. Okay. Let's see. What else do we have, please, for the collective? What else do we have? I will be doing a separate tarot reading. Okay. So if that resonates for you, check it out on my channel. Okay. Because I appreciate some people like the astrology, some people don't. So, you know, I try to get the messages out there to help people, really. And it can be triggering, it can be, but that's my job as a light worker, to try and help. Okay, so the sun and retrograde. Can't make this up, can you? So in order to discover our true soul's essence, we have to take that moment with these retrogrades to review, to reflect, to renew, to understand what we need to release. Full moon energy, release. The sun shines regardless of the situation. So we need to also recognize that, yes, there's light and dark to everything, but we need to shine. The sun always shines. The sun is extremely powerful, and the sun always shines. So we need to understand that what we're going through is transient. And it's for a reason with that retrograde. But look at this, all of them in reverse. 7th house relationships, the sun, soul essence and truth at the core, and retrograde. Hidden energy, Cancer, immerse. So Cancer ruled by the moon. There we go. Another message. And this is feminine energy, but underneath that, Leo, shine. So that is the true soul essence of being seen for who you are at the soul essence, expression of truth, expression of love as well that comes out of us when we're doing what we truly enjoy doing, what we love doing, being who we are, expressing ourselves, being that lion, having the courage to do so. But the femininity is on top. So that's that feminine energy nurturing, as I was saying before. Okay, let's take a further one from Wisdom of the Oracle. Okay, let's see what we have. And then we'll wrap this up. If you're all still with me, thank you. And of course, if you'd like a personal astrology reading to go into your natal chart, or a personalized moon scope for the full moon or new moon, you know, whatever it would be in the month, then feel free to reach out to me. I'll put the details in the description box. Website's currently in development, and I'm just looking at how that might work going forward. So in the meantime, if there are any requests that would need to be via email, and of course, I'll put that in the description box. So what we've got is we've got breathe in reverse. So there is a need to breathe through this, and meditation might help, especially in the retrograde periods of that inner reflection, introspection. We've got this on its side, loyal heart. So let's be loyal to our heart in terms of how we feel about things. Let's remember we're sovereign. And let's also remember that where there is a connection with somebody, that all of this toing and froing, because it was on its side, don't know which way to go, this is why transformation is needed in connections. And on the bottom, hidden energy, regeneration in reverse. So there is resistance to change, but change brings regeneration and growth as well. By the book is underneath that in reverse. So you may need to go out of convention. So not by the book, but follow the book of your life, your rule book, not the conditioning and programming and patterning that's been. This is about your book, how you live your life in order to bring balance, because to be fair is in reverse. And underneath that, we have building blocks. So this is about building that foundation for you. That's very important. Okay, but the full moon with lunar eclipse could just show you some stuff, and it could be uncomfortable because it's relating to worth and values, but it's where deep, deep change is needed. Okay, so hope that, I hope that wasn't too much. And I appreciate your support. I really do. And, I will be back with further reports. Had a bit of a break because I needed to focus on me. And this is the exact reason we've got to focus on our own heart and what lights us up. And we need to focus on our healing journey. But, I'm giving these messages to help. It's not to hinder. If it doesn't resonate for you, leave it. You don't have to take what I'm saying. This is about my intuitive interpretations of the astrology, and also when I pull cards as well, because I'm an intuitive reader. It's my messages. Sometimes spirit gives me the messages, and it might not resonate for you, but it could resonate for someone else. So if it doesn't resonate at all, just leave it and walk on by. And it could just be that it's just not your time for the reading. So this is why a personal reading is always good, because it's your energy. When it's collective, it could be a number of people. So just bear that in mind as well, and always use your discernment. Okay, and remember, as I said at the beginning, to be kind to yourself and to others. All right, take care, everybody. Sending you love and blessings. All the best.